It's another Victory Monday, and no, Terodde was not involved. Let's get into it.
Oh, they've done it! Simon Terodde, an instant hero! Can you believe it? Plenty attacking! No! The comeback is complete! A stunning second half from Schalke!
Blau und Weiß sein Leben lang. Hallo meine Leute. Willkommen zum einzigen Schalke Podcast auf English. That's right, folks. Officially the world's only English Schalke podcast. This is episode 136 of SchalkeMerica. I'm your host, Richard Carmen. Joining me, as always, the co-host, Jack Mangan. Jack, how are we doing on this Victory Monday?
Excellent, and for that exact reason, several in a row now, which we like to see. So starved for it, in recent seasons. So it doesn't really matter how they come or how late we leave it. Just nice to get the 3 points. So I'm feeling well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it was a crazy game, which we'll get into obviously, but it's nice to start the weekend off right with 3 points, and it certainly made the rest of the weekend feel better with that win. But I couldn't be happier. I mean, it's a third victory Monday in a row. 4 out of 5 now. We're on a winning streak officially.
We definitely are. And I think dating back to the Regensburg match where we conceded 4 goals and we're kind of in the midst of a shaky start at the back. I want to say in like the 6 games since then, something like 3 goals conceded, 3 clean sheets in that time. Yeah. One of those goals came when we were, a man down after that Paulson red card. I think against Karlsruhe. So, definitely have improved at the back and have found a way to get, consistent production up top. And that's not too complicated. It's a pretty good combination there. It's a winning combination. It's working for us of late.
Yeah. Ball to Rota, goal, right? I see Joseph's in the house.
Except in this one, surprisingly, as you said at the top of the podcast. Yeah.
Except in this one. Yeah. It's funny because we had early on this season talked about how, while we're scoring all these goals, we don't feel confident defensively yet. But as you mentioned, lately we've been pretty good. I think the emergence of Itakura as one of the leaders defensively, along with, Kaminski and Tiao and whoever's playing central defensive midfielder has helped a lot. And I think, as much as people were criticizing Gramozis at the beginning of the season, you should start giving a little bit of plaudits for finding ways to tighten it up defensively. Now, if he can figure out if he can find a way to make the team creative geniuses, even then we can applaud him even more, but baby steps, right?
No, I agree. I mean, I think Itakura was a big signing, and now that he's settled in, it certainly seems that we have a pretty solid back three in Kaminski, Chow, and Itakura. And it's possible that some of those defensive liabilities at the beginning of the season that seem to have shored up to some extent recently, could also just be down to the fact that once again we had a significant overhaul to the squad, a lot of new people in. Learning to play with each other for the first time. So some of that could just be natural evolution as well as we kind of settle into things and learn the system and learn what Gramozis is looking for and learn how each other plays, and they're able to cover some of those things. But I'll take it regardless of why it's happening. I'll take it any way it comes.
Yeah, so let's get into this because I look at the lineups in this one. So first for the host, which is Hanover, in goal Zieler. They went with the back 4 of Dem, Franke, Bono, and Kranic. Midfield 3 of Ernst, Tribul, and Kirk. And then up top they had Bayer, Hinterseer, and Mina. Any comments about the Hanover lineup?
Well, Hinterseer is a guy that we would recognize from the Bundesliga a number of seasons. It was with Ingolstadt at the time.
Yeah,
when they were up. Had some good seasons afterwards in the second division. At times with Bochum, I think a couple of years where he scored some nice, goal returns. Was he injured last year with Hamburg? Because he barely played. I don't know what was going on with that, but now he's moved to Hanover. Yeah. But a name we're familiar with. And then Ronald Zieler as well, who maybe not held as quite the high regard that he once was. It's at certain points in his career. I mean, when there was that sort of more emerging kind of group behind Manuel Neuer, when you had like Ter Stegen and Zieler and Bernd Leno coming through, sort of like the German national team depth chart, if you will. But still a a solid goalkeeper. Yeah, I mean, so those are really, I mean, once again, with a lot of these guys, we're not super familiar with some of them. I think I want to say like Kirk is maybe their leading goal scorer coming into this. This is a Hanover team that's really struggled to find the back of the net. I think, what was it, like only like 6 or 7 goals I think they had scored coming into this one, which is one of the lower totals in the league. So and yeah, and like, you know, you can see the mid 2 at this point. So you know, not a ton of danger from them early on, and not anyone in particular to be overly concerned about based on their early performances.
No, but as a team that's a former Bundesliga club that we are all familiar with, you always have to keep in the back of your mind that they can have the potential to turn it on at any time. Though we didn't see it in this game, you always have it in the back of your mind. For a long time, they were managed by former Schalke manager Mirko Slomka, whom I love personally. And so, you know, we've known Hanover for the longest time. We've got Salif Sane from Hanover, right? So looking into our lineup here, in goal, obviously, Frazel has been the main guy in goal. There was a flash when the game started, and I looked at Frazel from a distance. I was like, wait, is Fairman goal? But no, just my imagination. Frazel was certainly in goal. Back three, as we mentioned, Kaminski, Itakura, and Tiao. Paulson back into the midfield, into the lineup. You had Aydin, Oljan, Salazar, and Drexler in the middle with Bulter and Terodde up top. I guess the big news in this one for me, Paulson back into the lineup. Your thoughts on him being back into the lineup, and then overall the insertion, anybody else in the lineup, I guess.
Interesting that Google, or wherever this particular match graphic is from, decides that Oljan is a central midfielder. That's nice. But yeah,
threw me off for real. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, I was looking at like, what? Paulson, yeah, that's them. I mean, this is a pretty stable lineup from what we've seen recently. Yeah, it certainly does look like Drexler and Salazar are probably the 2 first choice guys. Centrally, it was just kind of a question of what's going to happen behind that, and so Paulson back in. But yeah, Aydin gets another run at right back. Unfortunately, that got cut short, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But we did like to see that. At least I did. Obviously, based on his recent form, it's kind of hard to take him out. He's been brilliant. And then, you know, the duo of Bolter and Terodde up top as usual.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's funny because like this game was another Friday game. These Friday games have been very difficult for both you and I. We're trying to get our live streams going, but we both are very busy during a weekday, and so it's impossible for us to do a live stream.
We are employed, after all, so
we are employed.
These,
not by Schalke, but by different employers.
These Friday games are, and we have more coming up. It's been a little bit unfortunate, but what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? But I was able to catch a majority of the game. Aydin's injury. Let's get into that right away. Walk us through, and specifically me, what exactly you saw, and then what your thoughts, I guess, ultimately after his coming off of the game.
Yeah, so it looked like a quad injury. And I actually haven't followed up to see did you hear what the news was afterwards? So I haven't actually seen any diagnosis. I'll have to check and see if that came out and I missed it. But yeah, it appeared to be like a quad more than like pulling a hammy, which I feel like is maybe a good thing. Because I just feel like, this is clearly where I'm just going to be speculating as a non-medical professional, but you always hate to see someone just like absolutely pull a hamstring when they're like, you know, flat out run or something along that. And he was able to continue for a bit. So despite getting initial intention, he tried to play on and was still moving relatively well at times. Like, he wasn't just walking around the pitch after he had initially gone down. So it didn't seem like it was immediately, the kind of thing that's necessarily going to keep him out for an extended period of time, hopefully. And once again, this maybe a diagnosis has come out since, and I haven't, really seen what's exactly going on and how long he's expected to be missing. But it was sad because he had a really good start too. And actually there was a moment early in the game where he had received the ball in space kind of in transition and fired a ball across the box, and it went off the far post and then bounced back across. Very unlucky to not ricochet in. Brilliant strike, really well placed, and almost an early goal for him and for us. And then, he wasn't long for the pitch after that, which was disappointing to see because it had been another bright start from him, in my opinion, and showing what he had been showing for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're hoping to see a kind of another step forward after that brilliant goal we saw, the last week with the Karate Kid there. It's interesting because his substitution that came on was Ranful. We've talked about it in recent weeks about who our preference would be on the right side, Cherlinov, even Timo Becker, but it was Ranful getting the substitution. This one, for whatever reason, he did okay, I think, in his substitution. But obviously, we wanted to see Aydin and see if how he could improve going after that the great game he had last week. And he started off bright, as you said, but he came off. So hopefully the injury isn't too bad. I did hear some rumors that many of the Schalke fans were worried about the injury in general. I don't know the extent of how long he's going to be out or anything like that, but there were some people that were worried, and it seems that injury scares are starting to come up. We heard about Terodde a couple weeks ago before the international break, so there's always that worry, and we always feel like we're one injury away from something catastrophic happening, right? That's just our word in the back of our head, based off recent history. So
and once again, just because he had continued playing for a bit doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that could keep him out for a while. It certainly could. It just, oftentimes if you see something where the person goes down and like they're in significant pain and they don't get up, and it's very clear that there's like, some immediacy to the situation, this seemed to be a little bit more touch and go at the time, which makes you optimistic that potentially it might not be as long term. But yeah, we'll have to see.
Hopefully that's the case. I'm trying to turn my mic back on. So getting to the gameplay, you looking at the statistics, I mean, it was one-way street, it felt like, right? Not many opportunities going for Hanover. Didn't even seem like they were playing. I don't think they had any shots in the first half. But they did have one opportunity where a cross came into the box. I forget who the forward is, number 17, hits it off his chest, goes for a bicycle. Malik Thiaw is right there. It wasn't really a shot. Frazel didn't scare him at all. And play continued on, but there was a moment there where I thought they had a great opportunity to go. Luckily, the pass wasn't that great, and he had to try to control with his chest. Had it been a better pass, it could have been a one-timer, and who knows what would happen, right?
Was he offside on that play too? Because I feel like he may have been. It was close.
He was.
I mean, it was pretty funny. I don't think there was any significant contact. I don't really think that like Thiaw like actually hit him with his cleat or anything, but he was rolling around on the ground trying to draw the penalty after that, as if he had been, like
maybe embarrassed,
harmed. But yeah. So, we talked. I mean, not exactly the same situation, but we've talked a little bit in the past about one of the more dangerous things that our opponents have been doing that seems to cause us problems are some of these deep balls that go back post in the box from wide areas. For some reason, we've had trouble tracking those back post runners or like in those positions. And once again, not exactly the same situation here, but another one where it's kind of lofted over and somebody finds space in behind in kind of a dangerous area off the backside. So yeah, lucky to escape that one. Obviously, it would have been, a pretty incredible goal if he had finished it. It'd be difficult, despite him being, a little bit. It'd be difficult. Yeah, it'd be difficult to be like, wow, what a bad defensive play, because it would have required a pretty ridiculous finish. But still, I raised an eyebrow early on.
And you could say, yes, he was offsides, but maybe Malik Thiaw could have done better on that. But he made up for it just a few minutes later, in like the 31st minute or whatever. He comes down the offensive end, a pass, like you mentioned, over everybody on the back post. Thiaw was there. His shot just misses wide, but you love to see Thiaw get up on the action. We often, and maybe too often, talk about comparisons between him and Joel Matip, right? Because Matip would always do that kind of stuff. And it's nice to see Thiaw get in on the play. Much like McKennie we talked about in the past, you need to be more accurate, right? It's good to get your shots off and get in on the ball, but you need to have that ball go on target instead of missing wide or just over the bar. But you gotta like what you see from Thiaw, at least pushing up on the play, huh?
Yeah, and especially it's not that you don't want, players to try to place shots into corners or anything like that, but especially when you have strikers, at least one such as Terodde, who's just going to be sitting in the box, he's going to have likely pretty good body position on his defender, and his the positions he takes up are so intelligent that you almost would kind of rather them just kind of shoot it hard at the center of the goal and hope there's a deflection that can be cleaned up, rather than, maybe trying to, place it exactly into the corner and missing wide and actually not troubling goal at all. I think it actually says quite a bit about how dominant we were in this game, and potentially how much confidence the team has at this moment, that you have a center back that, in those situations isn't automatically trying to cycle the ball, but every once in a while I was like, all right, I can actually beat a player here, take him on the dribble and get a shot off. And I feel like if we were, had less possession in this game, or had been a little bit less confident recently, that like he wouldn't be that far advanced. He wouldn't be taking those opportunities for himself necessarily. I think in that situation, I wasn't like, it's not always like a good thing that it happens, but I think the times that we've been excited recently are when he actually like takes somebody on the dribble and breaks a line of defense, which opens some things up for his teammates. He's certainly been popping up in some of those areas a little bit with more frequency recently, which I'm not against, and showed some nice ball skills as well, which was fun to see.
It's always nice to see. It's nice to see when you have a striker, or excuse me, a center back that likes to push up on the play and take those opportunities. Right, we've seen Nalo do in the past and some other defenders. We arguably have three guys, all three center backs that can do that. Itakura can do it. We've seen him do it. Obviously, Malik Thiaw and Kaminski can do it as well. Kaminski likes to do the passing, long-range passing more, but he'll get into the box as well. He'll make his runs as well. So we do have the flexibility, and luckily the connection is there with the midfield that when one of them do go on the runs, someone is backing up and helping them out. Obviously, Ovejan and Aydin or whomever's on the right side is going to read that, but you've been reading also either it's Paulson recently or Drexler or whomever's in that sixth position is going to do the same thing too. So at least there's that understanding between when the center backs are going to make that run, someone's going to cover for them, because otherwise big mistakes are going to happen. But I was going to say, all that aside, wasn't much action offensively. We dominated almost everything statistically. I think halftime the shots were like 12-0 in our favor. At that point, I know I was frustrated because you're dominating a team so much, yet it's 0-0. All it takes is one shot for them, and this game is on its end. Though I was happy with how we were playing defensively, the possession, the amount of shots, the quality wasn't quite there in the last third. What were your thoughts in the first half?
Yeah, a lot of volume in shots, but not quite as many clear-cut opportunities as you would have liked. Certainly some poor finishing at times, I should say. I think some of those numbers were a touch misleading in terms of how dangerous we actually were. And I think it was more just a function of how much we were dominating the game from like a possession standpoint. And our ability to get into the final third was, I think, different than our ability to create really strong opportunities in the final third.
No, it certainly was. And you wanted to know when that goal was going to come. Hopefully for us, right? We would continue on in the second half, pressing on, and we looked good. I mean, defensively, we weren't giving up anything. Again, a strong performance by the three in the back, plus the wing backs. We kept trying to make opportunities. For the most part, Terodde was silenced. He really didn't get the service that he needed. And credit to Hanover, I guess, for trying to crowd him out and forcing Schalke to do something else other than feed it to Terodde. Even though it seems at times when he's covered by two guys, it doesn't matter, right? He'll find a way. He nearly found a way in I think it was a 66 minutes or something. Ovejan on the left-hand side crosses it in, and we saw this earlier in the season where Terodde does a diving header, and he got it in the last game. This game just missed it wide, but that was the first glimpse really you saw of Terodde all game long. He was trying to more play playmaker because the service wasn't getting to him. So I know it had to have been a frustrating game for him. And I know all of us are looking at him to get that record-breaking goal. Maybe too many eyes were on him trying to get that, and Schalke was too focused on that as opposed to trying to get quality opportunities in the final third. What were your thoughts on Terodde being fairly quiet and all that?
Yeah, but I mean, I think both the guys up front were a little bit more quiet than we would have liked. And once again, this comes down to it wasn't a lot of clear-cut opportunities falling to the guys you'd want to. Is more more speculative shots at times. But I mean, for me, the takeaway here is though it's just the fact that Ovejan can consistently get into those positions and play dangerous balls and put them on people. It's nothing new. He's been doing it all season. I think there's definitely an argument to be made he was the player of the match in this one. And I think most of our recent games, if he's not the player of the match, he's top three for sure, and that's been the case for most of the season. I mean, he's been phenomenal. I mean, regardless of how we're playing, even in games where we've played poorly, there's still probably 2 or 3 times a match where he gets a nice ball in or does something that creates at least a half chance for one of his teammates. And that's only more of a thing in a game like this where we're in the final third a little bit more and able to get into those areas. So yeah, that was nice to see from him. And that's even especially more important when Aydin goes down, because he's been creating a lot from his side. And that early injury, Ovejan was able to step up to the plate and have a really nice game here.
Joseph mentions in the chat that Zieler, you gave him plaudits at the beginning of this, how he came out big on the few times that he had to. He had one great save. I forget who was on point blank against. I don't remember who it was now, but he had a great point blank save on somebody in the game. And I thought he was going to go out injured for a minute, but he wasn't. He was down for for a while. I thought, and I for sure thought another goal was coming in, but actually there was a goal that came in, right? There was a goal substitution.
Yes, there was.
Martin Hansen came in, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
and he came in. He did his job. I mean, the goal that was scored wasn't his fault. But let's talk about the goal. So we weren't sure when a goal was going to be scored. I was getting more and more worried. I thought we were chatting during the game. Had Schalke, we both felt that had Schalke not come away with a win, it would have been a travesty considering the statistic disadvantage it was. We were so dominant in this game. And look, granted, come into this 3-game stretch we just had, ending with Hanover, we said if we got 7 points, that's what we needed to have. Now, if we ended the game in a draw, we would have had that 7 points, and we would have been pretty upset, I think, because the way we played in this game in terms of statistics, luckily we ended up getting the goal. It was a play out on the right first. I think it was a throw in by Ovejan. Hanover clears it. It gets to him, back to Drexler. Drexler crosses it in. Paulsen, the guy who just made a return to the lineup, ever so slightly heads it towards the box or further into the box. Kaminski with some kind of karate kick move of his own to hold the ball and then scores the goal. What more can you say about the goal? Great way to end it in almost the 96th minute. It was 95th, but leaving it late.
Yeah, seriously. Super important, as you said. I mean, we've done a really good job stringing a few results together recently. Which is, it has so often it's been the stop-start thing when we have been able to get a result and we can't build on it at all. And we've put a couple nice results together. We've pulled ourselves up into the table. And then, in a match like this against a team that's kind of, struggled to start the season, hasn't been dangerous. And in the game where we've dominated this much and forced a couple big saves from, Zieler, as you said, to have left there with a draw, you might worry that you look back at the end of the season and be like, I hope that's not a result that we seriously regret, because it was there for the taking. It was an opponent that we had an advantage on and clearly outplayed in this match.
Yeah.
So thank God we were able to steal it at the end, and it was great. I think on Twitter I called it a redemptive winner from Kaminski. Not that it's his job generally to score the goals, put us over the top, but had an opportunity had fallen to him earlier in the game where he had about half a net to shoot at for basically what was a tap in, and he unfortunately hit it side foot across goal directly to the keeper. And it had missed, but was clearly a goal scoring opportunity. So it was really awesome to see that another chance happened to fall to him late. And this time he actually did really well on what was actually a more difficult opportunity to finish at the time. So go ahead.
That's right. That was Kaminski who has point blank on the keeper that
Zieler
made the great save on. So that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And Paul Forster kind of made the point that you were making earlier about Ovejan. He's always finding ways to get plays into the box, and 34 crosses so far this season from open play. That's pretty good. That's what we want. We were looking for that in the left back, right? Now, if Aydin can get the starting time, and we see what he's done in the small sample that he can do that kind of stuff. We have two quality guys on the wings there that can feed the two monsters we have up top, right? The Angry Tree and Terodde.
Yeah, I absolutely adore Ovejan's game. I love watching him play. He's legitimately fun to watch. He does a lot of good things, not just on the ball. Does great things off the ball, behind the ball, as well. He's the signing of the season, arguably next to obviously Terodde, of course, which is so important. But I think you can't understate how important Ovejan's been to this side. But back to the goal for a second, just pretty unfortunate defending from Hanover's perspective as well, because it's not like Kaminski made some really sort of clever run. He didn't really move around a whole lot at all, and there was just miscommunication. And one of the defenders who I think was supposed to have that responsibility stayed up and was trying to get the header that Paulsen went for, but wasn't even putting a body on Paulsen either. And Kaminski ultimately was just kind of in this pocket of space with no one close enough to him, and that's what allowed him the time to, even though he had to make that sort of weird initial touch to control the ball before he was able to turn and fire. He had so much space at the time the ball came to him that they weren't able to close him down before that, because it's not like he got the shot off right away when it came in. There was a moment there where he had to kind of readjust his feet, and it was still kind of a difficult shot. So yeah, I mean, unfortunate from Hanover's perspective to hang in there for as long as they did, only to lose off of a throw in the 96th minute on kind of this weird play. So, but like I said, we'll take it. After how we've played, I'm rarely going to apologize for anything. It doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if it wasn't the most brilliant piece of buildup or something. I'm going to take it however we can get it. Big result. And once again, as you said, another clean sheet. So not the offensive performance in terms of the actual goal production, but happening for us on both ends of the pitch right now. Just really great to see. And I think, the thing I liked about it as well is the team celebrated as if that was like, the knockout round of a cup.
Yeah.
That they did not celebrate that as if that was just sort of like, a regular season game against Hanover. And also like, Gramatsis was very, very animated. And at times when we've scored, he's been the more reserved one, while like Buskins and Osmo, people are like freaking out.
And Schroeder.
And Schroeder. But like, Schroeder and Gramatsis embraced after this one. Like there seemed to be like a legitimate team spirit and excitement about those results. And it's a winner, so it's exciting, of course, but like to see them like that enthused about finding a way to grind that one out, I think speaks volumes about where they are from a mentality standpoint right now. And that really gives you the belief that at least there is the hunger there potentially to get some of these results, because they know that they're going to, be adding up over the course of the season. They, the goal in mind, of course, is promotion. And, because of the result between Regensburg and Karlsruhe, right? They drew. We jumped Karlsruhe. We're tied on points with Regensburg now, so we're in third, but we're tied level on points with second.
Yeah.
This is where we need
momentarily
to be.
tied for first, and it's almost a perfect segue. That are we becoming a team now? We see now after some of these great results, some of these late winner last game, the team is really coming together now. We're fighting for each other. We're celebrating together. It's starting to look like a team, right? We're not there yet, and we've talked about this ad nauseum this season. Is that like, we're not where we want to be, but I'd rather be trending upwards and not playing well yet. And then as we get better, we're at the top. We're in third at the moment, tied for second if you want, with Regensburg, who, oh, by the way, have drawn 4 of the last 5 after their hot start. So they're starting to tail off now. St. Pauli and Bergstall are second in the league in goal scoring. So they seem like they're legit this year, but we're in third. It's a good place to be when you're not 100% just yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we've said all along that we've liked what Schroeder's done from a personnel standpoint. So that's been one component. I do think I like our squad at this point. We'll see if we start having injury trouble, how long that feeling lasts for, if we have the depth to cover it. Although I do think we're in a relatively good spot in several positions at least. And it's just kind of been a question of whether or not Gramatsis is the guy to really give the players, the structure and the ideas they need to take it over the top. But I do think the talent's there. And, one thing I will say, we've talked a lot about the inability to build centrally. I think especially in this game and also in the game before, you've seen like kind of a new action that you hadn't been seeing as much early in the season, where one of the central midfielders, one of those two kind of central midfielders in front of Paulson, whoever's playing the 6, will like kind of drop deep, and then a striker will drop really quickly. A center back will play that ball in, and as that ball is being played to the dropping striker, one of those central midfielders will then run in behind, and there's like a flick play behind. We did that a lot in this game, and that's not, there's only so many times you can do that before that they're covering it, but like that's kind of like a newer idea and a new action centrally that's helping build up and bypass some things. Like that's a mild improvement that you're seeing. There's a lot to be excited about right now, and once again, for me, just to see the way they responded to that late winner was nice. And once again, the emotion between Gramatsis and Schroeder, which there's been things said in the media at times, and it's interesting. So certainly beginning to come together. We're stringing some results together finally, as I said, not stopping and starting. We'll see how long we can keep it going, but trending in the right direction already, as you said, in a good spot in the table. Which if you're not 100% satisfied with the quality of your play and you're still kind of in the top 5, like that's probably, as you said, it's a good place to be. Yeah,
exactly. Because if and when we get to where we want to be and we're at the top of the table, we can start pulling away from teams and really get comfortable for us fight the Liga, right? It's hard to say, but a couple of guys in the chat are talking about the Nord Curve. They were 10,000 strong at the game, which is awesome. It always helps when you're on the road. It's great to have the fan base there, but the team, I think. We'll see how the season pans out, but that turning point could have gone either way when Gramatsis went from Fairman to Frazel. Much is said, but mostly it was about the chemistry, because you're taking one of the favorites in the locker room, club legend, take him out and bring in somebody else. And a lot of guys felt like they were spiting Gramatsis, and we saw that in the initial game after when they scored some goals and they celebrated, Fairman and right in front of Gramatsis.
Yeah, Bolter, running back to the
Bolter, right?
Yeah.
So it could have gone either way, right? The team could have imploded and fought against it, like we saw last year with Gross, or the way they're doing it right now, where they're all together, coming together, and even now celebrating with Gramozis. If he can he's obviously figuring it out. He started figuring out a certain 11, which we see now, a pretty consistent starting 11 when most guys are healthy. We're starting to see now the defensive end, 3 clean sheets in a row. The 3 center backs are on the same page. We got maybe now some wingers now, consistent wingers with Aydin and Ovejan. So now the final aspect of this whole thing is the final third, right? We've got 2/3 of the pitch seems to be going. If we can get that final third going, we will be, I think, where we need to be. You were talking about the depth. I like our depth all the way around, minus striker. I think, Bolt or Terodde go down, and who you turn to? Cherlinov. So we need to bring in somebody in January as a backup just in case. But overall, I like the direction we're heading. And if you, like you said, they can add some of these nuances in the game to kind of like throw the other team off. And with the pressing that they do, we could become something really good. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. I think second best defensive record in the league, 11 goals against. Only St. Pauli is better than us. So
yeah. I mean, the general structure is there. It's in place. You understand for the most part when you're watching what we're trying to accomplish and what the shape is and those sorts of things. And I mean, you would think that would kind of be like the lowest minimum bar, but there's been times where that's been pretty incomprehensible and indecipherable when we've been watching Schalke games over the past couple of years. So an actual squad that is performing well at the moment with good personnel and the chemistry settled in. As you said early in the season, there was a lot of who's our right back, right? Like who are our central midfielders? What's the back line kind of a thing. And we have our 3 center backs pretty well locked up until Sane comes back, if he's ever healthy and is playing for us this season.
And then what happens? That's a good question.
Yeah, but I mean, like in the meantime, I think we feel very confident, and we have those same guys coming in, week in, week out. I mean, the DFB Pokal match against 1860 Munich will be interesting to see if there is rotation in that game, and who he gives time to. But yeah, outside of maybe the questions of who's our backup right back. I mean, we know who the top 2 are. We know that Oweyan's playing left. Drexler and Salazar are pretty much. I mean, once again, Donny Latza coming back, that'll be another, interesting thing in the mix. But it's become a very consistent lineup in the past 3-4 weeks. We kind of know who to expect that we're going to see. And you can't really argue with it because you generally like what you're getting from most of those guys most of the time, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I imagine UT Peringer in the 1860 match, and also a lot more of Mikhailov, maybe Cherlinov as well. But I'm curious to see what that lineup's going to look like and who's in goal. We'll see, because it'll be 3 games in 6 days, I think, and during that stretch. But it was certainly a good game. Team is starting to come together, becoming more of a team, if you will. And we're towards the top of the table. Only one team has more points than us at the moment. Look at the shots in this game. Was just, I mean, it's a shame we only won 1-0. I think some of the chat said we could have won 3-4-0 based on the statistics. But look, shots 2-24 in our favor. Shots on target 6-0 in our favor. We had more possession. We've had less fouls, more corners. We just dominated every statistic basically, and unfortunately we had 1 goal. But luckily it was a goal, and we got the win. So much needed 3 points. We finished
absolutely deserved result, regardless of how late and the fact that it was a center back. You can't argue with that. Being what it should have been. Yeah, for sure. And the one thing I will say though is some of the praise we saw for Freisel after the game, he didn't have to make a save.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, Fairman was facing, I think, a significantly larger number of shots in his 5 games that he started, as opposed to what we've seen from Freisel. So, obviously there's been clean sheets, but he also hasn't. I mean, he's made a couple big saves at times, but this game was certainly not one that he was tested that much. So, for me, jury's still a little bit out on terms of how much of a upgrade that was. Personally.
So let me play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Do you think the defense has gotten better because Gramozis and the management have figured out a way defensively to clean it up, or has the defense got better because they got Freisel in goal and they're not so sure how good he is? As Fairman, you can just rely on him, so you can relax a little bit, let him make the big save. Whereas Freisel, you're not so sure, and so you tighten up and make sure you're hitting all the marks. Which do you think it is?
I mean, I sincerely hope it's not that they're not playing good defense with Fairman. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I feel you. I feel you.
I think teams come out together.
Yeah, it's just I still haven't seen a ton where I'm like, was this really necessary?
Yeah.
To the extent that it improved us, if it did, was it and enough to I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I guess in the end, if you think it even improved this marginally, then that's all you need to justify it because you want to be as good as you possibly can be. But all I'm saying is he hasn't done a ton where I've been like, yes, that's super impressive, and I'm really glad we made that switch.
Yeah, it doesn't have the leadership that's on the field with Fairman, but I think it has been upgraded in the passing. Just been more comfortable when we're pressed back and we're trying to get out the back and we pass to the goalie. I feel more confident. I also feel as at times Fraza will take on the attacker and try to do something stupid that he probably shouldn't, but he hasn't done it yet. But I feel more confident with him at the ball at his feet. But that's beside the point. Like you said, it's been very marginal, if anything else. So, three games in a row now. We won consecutive clean sheets. We're humming and going. We got a stretch coming up here. Dynamo Dresden coming up next Saturday, which we will do a live stream on. Followed up just 3 days later against 1860 Munich in the DFB Pokal. Let's see what the lineup's going to be for that. And then Heidenheim following up on Friday, just 4 days after that or 3 days after that. So it's a nice little 3-game stretch there in 6 games or 6 days, I should say. And these teams are not bad. Like Dynamo Dresden, they're middle of the table. 1860, it is what you can say what you want about them. Heidenheim is not bad this year. And then Darmstadt's right after that. Darmstadt's, I think, 6th in the table this season, so they're not to be scoffed at, really. And don't forget our friends Nuremberg, who are on the horizon as well. They actually have the best defense in the league, only 7 goals allowed. So we're third best, I guess, defensively. But important 3-game stretch with the English Voka, if you will, whatever you want to call it, the DFB Pokal. I'm curious to see how it goes, but it's nice to have a 3-game win streak for a change, Jack. I'm getting used to this Victory Monday thing.
Yeah, I mean, as I said at the top of the podcast, and I've said repeatedly, it's so refreshing. I'm still not, the novelty of it still hasn't worn off. After the last couple of seasons, I still enjoy it every week, and it makes me appreciate it all the more. But we're on a roll, and these couple of games coming up against Dynamo Dresden and Heidenheim, decent campaigns from both so far, but also on the balance in terms of our recent form, games I think we could probably get hopefully at least 4 points from, you would imagine. And I think we'd still be feeling relatively good about things if that was the case. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, especially as you said with the congested fixture schedule, with that DFB Pokal match in the middle of it. How much are we going to rotate the squad? But yeah, interesting stretch on the horizon here.
And I think I'm comfortable enough with a rotation that I think we have enough depth that we should be very competitive in that game, I think. Maybe the striker situation will be interesting to see. You imagine Peringer is going to be in the start in that one, but overall, I think depth-wise, I'm confident in what kind of rotation we're going to have, and possibly seeing the return of Salif Sane or who knows who else. Are you confident with the depth if we do a heavy rotation in that game?
Yeah, I mean the point you brought up earlier, once again, like it's the issue up top. Like, who do you trust? To kind of put in the performances that Bolter and Terodde have put in. But yeah, I mean, there's several. I mean, yeah, we'll see. You never want to take an opponent for granted in the DFB Pokal. You don't want to just assume that you can walk over 1860 Munich or something like that. But yeah, I mean, there are like positions like in the central midfield, and we do have a little bit of depth at right and left back that you feel like you could see some rotation there at least. Be interesting.
I wonder if they flirt with the rotation or formation and change to like a 4-2-3-1 or something, or 3-2-4-1. Leave Peringer up top by himself with maybe Mikhailov behind him, and then bring in people around him. Who knows? Latza maybe come back if we were lucky.
Yeah, I mean, you'd expect to see Florian Flick probably in that game.
Maybe Becker.
It could be Becker as well. Which, I mean, once again, not that you necessarily think that center back is Timo Becker's best position, but another guy on top of Sane that in theory could slide in there if necessary. So, I mean, there's some versatility.
Yeah, I would imagine you see Fairman, but who knows? You never know with these things. So, yeah, that's on the horizon there. So, anything else you want to chat about tonight before we wrap this up?
No, about Schalke specifically. No, I'm pleased. We're on a little bit of a run here. Let's keep it going. And if we do falter, let's get right back on it. Let's not get bogged down a little bit.
I've kept the blue background for the last 3 wins, so I'm keeping this right now.
Keep the streak going. There you go.
That's right. So yeah, let's wrap this one up here. Obviously a lot to get into next time we're on the podcast here, but it'll be start of the 3-game stretch in 6 days. But yeah, wrap this one up here. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you sign up for the Schalke US newsletter. Not only get info on the club, but get all the latest from other local fan clubs across North America. So definitely give that a sign. Email address and get monthly updates. So definitely check that out. Keep tuning in each week as we bring you the latest from the Royal Blues. We will bring you live streams when we can, when they fall on the weekend. Weekdays is a little difficult for our full-time jobs here, but definitely check those out. We also want to give a shout out to, I want to give a shout out to other streamers, Cedric Zalmat, Koningsblau TV, and SchalkeMerica. Definitely give all of them a follow on YouTube. Great live streams, especially if you understand German. Jack, anybody you want to give a plug to this weekend?
Oh, thank you for teeing that up for me so nicely. The Chicago Sky, WNBA champions. Got to give a shout out to them. Been on a little bit of a drought of competitive teams ever since that Cubs World Series win. The Bears are the Bears and the Bulls are kind of the Bulls. Hoping for a resurgent Bulls, but really it's been, honestly, if we're being real, it's been like the Red Stars and the Chicago Sky in recent seasons, kind of carrying the flag for Chicago. So shout out to them. Obviously Candace Parker, hometown hero, so to speak, went to Naperville Central. That's literally the town over for me. I competed against them when I was in high school, athletics, everything. Obviously nowhere. I mean,
you played women's basketball?
Yeah, exactly. The 1 year of like BS tennis that I played in high school, that's like the extent of my high school athletics career. But yeah, I mean, so just really great to see her get her, I think it's her second title now. And to be able to kind of come back to the Chicago area, and bring this organization to championship. That was pretty cool to see. Dude, some fucking sick jerseys, man. Really are. I might have to grab me one. We'll see.
And she went to the University of Tennessee, right?
Yes.
I believe. Yeah, yes. And you know who else is in Tennessee? NBC4 Nashville, giving them a shout out as always. That
was a segue and a half, man. Wow.
I'm not
Did
even
not know where you were going with that.
I didn't even know until I said it. So it worked out. It worked out this time. Thank you again to all our followers. If you're listening to us on the podcast, those who watch us on the live stream on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch as well, and obviously it's Facebook. I think I mentioned Facebook. Whatever. Let's wrap this bad boy up. You can follow me at R_KHARMAN. You can follow Jack at AJMMangan. That's the first time I ever said that.
JMMangan, JMMANGAN.
Thank you. I'll leave it to the pros. Pros. So, as always, we will catch you on the next episode, my friends. And until then, look out.